For the first time since 2020, when both James Harden and Russell Westbrook earned All-Star nods, the Houston Rockets will once again be represented at the NBA All-Star Game. This time it's Alperen Sengun making his debut on basketball's biggest stage. At just 22 years old, Sengun joins an elite group of Hall of Fame big men, Moses Malone, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Yao Ming, as the only players in franchise history to earn All-Star honors at 22 or younger. This season, Sengun has been phenomenal, averaging 19.1 points, 10.4 rebounds, and 5 assists in 31.3 minutes per game. He's one of only 4 players in the league putting up at least 19 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists a night, a testament to his all-around brilliance. His dominance has played a key role in the Rockets' success, as they currently sit at 32-17, holding the 3rd seed in a loaded Western Conference. Though Houston is coming off a 3-game skid in which Sengun did not play a single minute due to a left calf contusion, it's worth noting they had won 10 of their previous 12 games before that, a run powered in large part by Sengun's impact on both ends of the floor. His contributions go beyond the box score. Sengun leads the team in plus-minus with a remarkable plus 246, solidifying his case as an all-star and proving just how vital he is to Houston's resurgence. But just how much has he shaped the Rockets' success this season? Let's take a deeper dive into his influence and uncover the full extent of his impact. Offensively, while this may not be his best shooting season, he has still been outstanding, making significant strides in other areas of his game. Improvements we'll be breaking down in this video. Let's start with his biggest struggle so far, shooting. This season, he's connecting on just 22.7% of his three-point attempts, the lowest mark of his 4-year career. At the same time, he's shooting 49.1% from the field, his second worst efficiency since entering the league, with only his rookie season being lower. To put his three-point struggles into perspective, even on wide-open looks, where the nearest defender is at least 6 feet away, he's converting just 26.8% of those attempts. And although this may seem worrying with how three-point heavy the league has gotten, three-point shooting isn't a major part of Sengun's offensive game. He attempts only 1.4 threes per game, with less than 10% of his total shots coming from beyond the arc. And that's why his shooting woes aren't a big concern when evaluating his overall offensive impact. Where he truly thrives and where his game has continued to grow is in the post and as a playmaker. Those are the areas that define his effectiveness, and that's where we'll shift our focus next. A major pillar of Sengun's offensive game this season has been his dominance in the post. He thrives within the three-point arc, creating opportunities not just for his teammates, but even more so for himself. His offensive arsenal is diverse, allowing him to operate effectively from multiple spots: the short corner, low post, elbow, high post, and even at times from the top of the key. But in most cases, he prefers to establish position with his back to the basket, using his strength and footwork to dictate the possession. When working from the low post, Sengun has 2 primary approaches. The first is simply overpowering his defender. Most players assigned to guard him struggle to match his physicality, allowing him to either finish with a hook shot or go to his signature move, the fadeaway jumper, which he has been remarkably efficient with this season. Even when teams throw double teams at him, particularly near the elbow or deep in the post, he remains a threat. Not only can he score through pressure, but he also showcases his elite playmaking ability, consistently identifying the open man. Whether it's a cutter slashing to the rim or a shooter spotting up beyond the arc, Sengun delivers pinpoint passes that lead to easy scoring opportunities. One of the biggest beneficiaries of Sengun's passing has been Amen Thompson, who has racked up countless points by timing his cuts perfectly when defenders collapse on Sengun. This ability to read the floor and exploit defensive rotations has been a hallmark of Sengun's game in recent seasons, and this year he has only sharpened that skill further, proving that he is well on his way to mastering the art of post play. When it comes to Sengun's ability to generate offense from the high post and top of the key, one thing stands out: his underrated explosiveness off the dribble. For a player of his size, his speed in blowing past defenders and finishing smoothly at the rim is exceptional. In my past few videos, I've emphasized the importance of creating advantages on offense simply by having the ability to beat a defender off the drive. Now, let's take a closer look at Sengun, who has been elite in this aspect. His ability to not only score on drives, but also leverage his incredible vision and playmaking skills to set up teammates has been a defining feature of his offensive game this season, especially when he operates from the high post or top of the key. When Sengun gets past his man, he forces defenses to collapse, drawing extra attention and opening up passing lanes. And with his exceptional court vision, he consistently finds the open teammate for high-quality looks. What makes this even more exciting is that, at just 22 years old, there's still so much room for growth. Considering how impactful he already is as an offensive hub and creator, it's scary to think how much better he can become. So far this season, Sengun is averaging 7.6 drives per game, third among all big men, trailing only Jaren Jackson Jr. and Julius Randle. That's a slight uptick from last season's 7.3 drives per game, continuing an upward trend year after year. While his finishing efficiency on drives has dipped slightly, down from 55.6% last season to 52.7% this season, he's made noticeable strides as a playmaker in these situations. This season, 7.4% of his drives have resulted in assists, a significant improvement from last season's 6.3%. This is a direct response to teams overhelping on his drives, giving him even more opportunities to create for others. His ability to break down defenders, force rotations, and either score or facilitate has become a vital part of the Rockets' offensive system. Moreover, Sengun's ability to attack off the dribble has elevated his pick-and-roll prowess to an elite level. When analyzing how Sengun utilizes his speed off the dribble to beat defenders, it's clear that this same skill translates seamlessly into his pick-and-roll game. Sengun gains an even greater advantage in these situations because his primary defender is often forced onto the back foot, struggling to recover after fighting through a screen. One of the Rockets' most effective strategies is using a guard as the screener in pick and rolls for Sengun. This creates a defensive dilemma. Does the opponent switch and risk having their smaller guard defend Sengun, allowing him to overpower them in the paint for an easy bucket? Or do they hedge the screen, giving Sengun a driving lane where his quickness allows him to blow by his matchup? Once Sengun gains an edge, it's almost always a free path to the basket. He can finish with a layup, kick it out for an assist if help defense arrives, or force the opponent into fouling him. A strategy that, given his 70.8% free throw shooting this season, might actually be the best option for defenses trying to slow him down. Right now, Sengun is tied for first in pick-and-roll efficiency among players who have run at least 30 pick-and-rolls this season, generating an astonishing 1.28 points per possession. That's unheard of for a big man. Even more mind-blowing, Sengun is producing more points per possession as the pick-and-roll ball handler than some of the NBA's most dynamic guards. Kyrie Irving, Darius Garland, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Brunson, and even Jokic, a unicorn big man who is revered for his ability to orchestrate the pick-and-roll at an elite level. Yes, those players operate in far higher pick-and-roll volume than Sengun, but the fact that he's hanging with and even outpacing some of the league's premier initiators speaks volumes about his offensive brilliance. Yet, this action accounts for less than 5% of his offensive possessions. That's an incredibly low percentage for someone so dominant in this play type. If the Rockets prioritize more pick-and-roll sets featuring Sengun with a guard as the screener in the second half of the season, they could unlock even greater offensive potential. Currently ranked 8th in the league in pick-and-roll offense, Houston could realistically finish in the top 5 or maybe top 3 by season's end. Just as Sengun has blossomed into a highly skilled pick-and-roll ball handler, he has struggled just as much when operating as the roll man this season. A major reason for this is his one-dimensional approach as a screener. Sengun isn't a significant pick-and-pop threat due to his lackluster three-point shooting. Defenses don't have to worry about him drifting out to the perimeter, which limits his effectiveness in those situations. Earlier, I pointed out that less than 5% of Sengun's offensive plays this season have involved him as a pick-and-roll ball handler, his most efficient scoring action. Yet, despite his struggles as a roll man, nearly 20% of his offensive possessions have come from setting screens in pick-and-rolls. His effectiveness in this role has been subpar, with an effective field goal percentage of just 49.3%. That ranks him among the least efficient high-volume roll men in the entire league. Given these struggles, the Rockets would greatly benefit from prioritizing Sengun as a ball handler in pick-and-roll situations rather than forcing him into a traditional big man role. This shift wouldn't just help them in the regular season, it could become a go-to action in high-stakes playoff moments. Over time, it could develop Sengun into one of the league's premier big man playmakers in pick-and-roll scenarios. That said, while Sengun has been ineffective as a role man, he remains one of the best screeners in the NBA, especially in handoff situations. His screening has directly benefited numerous Rockets players, and this season alone, he has generated 376 points off-screen assists, ranking 8th in the league. That's more than renowned screen setters like Bam Adebayo, Anthony Davis, and Karl Anthony Towns. So, if the Rockets still want to utilize Sengun as a screener in pick-and-roll actions, shifting the focus toward handoffs could be a more effective way to maximize his impact in that role. The final aspect of Sengun's offensive game that we're diving into is his dominance on the offensive glass. He isn't just one of the best offensive rebounders in the league, he's also elite at capitalizing on those second-chance opportunities. His ability to score off offensive rebounds is remarkable, but what truly sets him apart is his playmaking. When the paint is too crowded for a putback, he seamlessly finds open three-point shooters, turning broken plays into high-quality shots. Sengun is simply a magnet for the ball. This season, he's already secured 157 offensive rebounds, ranking 7th in the league. Even more impressive, he's turned those into 175 second-chance points, the third most in the NBA, trailing only Domantas Sabonis and Karl Anthony Towns. And with the Rockets also boasting Steven Adams, another monster on the boards, they might just have the most dominant offensive rebounding center rotation in the entire league. Now let's get into one of the most underrated on-court connections on the Rockets roster this season that is quietly blossoming, and that is the duo of Sengun and Amen Thompson. While Amen has earned plenty of praise, primarily for his elite defense, which we already know is spectacular, his offensive game has also been turning heads in recent weeks, and a key reason for that, Sengun. Yet, not enough people are talking about his impact. So far this season, no player has assisted Amen more than Sengun, racking up 33 dimes to his name. The only other Rocket close to that mark is Fred VanVleet with 32 assists to Amen. But here's the interesting part. Amen has been significantly more efficient when scoring off Sengun's passes than anyone else on the roster. He's shooting an impressive 58.4% off feeds from Sengun, compared to 55.2% off passes from Steven Adams, the next closest player. What does this tell us? Amen thrives when playing off of big men rather than guards or wings. The bulk of his scoring from Sengun and Adams comes off well-timed cuts to the basket, leading to high-percentage looks at the rim. And that's no coincidence. It's a reflection of his skill set and the chemistry he's developing with his playmaking bigs. If the Rockets lean further into this, incorporating more actions where Amen operates as an off-ball cutter, especially in two-man plays with Sengun, like pick and rolls, his offensive game could reach another level. Amen is already averaging 13.6 points per game this season, but with a heavier emphasis on these types of plays, he could realistically push that number to 20. In fact, over his last 15 games, he's already up to 17.8 per game, proving that the blueprint for his offensive breakout is already in motion. Now, let's shift our focus to a part of Sengun's game that doesn't get nearly enough recognition this season: his defense. Despite his unathletic frame, Sengun is a far better defender than most give him credit for. Let's start by evaluating his role as a rim protector, an essential trait for any strong defensive center. This season, Sengun is allowing opponents to shoot 61.7% at the rim, a slight increase from last season's 61.1%, which places him in the bottom third among all centers who've defended at least 150 attempts. On the surface, this might seem like a weakness, but the context is important. Even elite centers like Nikola Jokic, Bam Adebayo, and Karl Anthony Towns have worse defensive field goal percentages at the rim than Sengun. Sengun's approach to rim protection isn't about leaping into the air and swatting shots into the stands. He's simply not built for that kind of play, although he does showcase that at times. But what he excels at is keeping his hands up when opponents drive to the basket, making those attempts much more difficult. His ability to challenge shots without needing to jump out of the gym is a subtle but crucial part of his defense. While his rim protection might not have the flashy appeal of thunderous blocks, he is still an incredibly effective shot deterrent, especially in help defense situations. With 37 blocks already this season, Sengun is on pace to surpass his total from last year, 46 blocks. When you compare his rim protection to other centers with similar body types like Jokic, Sabonis, and Towns, Sengun is outperforming them in this area, proving that even without elite athleticism, he's more than capable of holding his ground as a rim protector. Let's now dive into how Alperen Şengün has been performing as a pick-and-roll defender this season. Şengün has quickly emerged as one of the league's top drop defenders, showing remarkable poise and precision when facing pick-and-roll scenarios. His ability to challenge the ball handler coming off the screen has been immensely impressive. He delays just enough to allow his teammates to recover, but when the ball handler opts to attack the rim, Şengün is right there, disrupting shots or even swatting them away. As I mentioned earlier, Şengün's approach to defending ball handlers driving to the basket off the pick and roll is simple yet effective. He keeps his hands high, making every drive a tough one. His defensive awareness and timing make him a constant threat around the rim. This season, Şengün is allowing just 0.84 points per possession in pick-and-roll situations, which ranks him in the 70th percentile of all defenders, a noticeable improvement from last season's 0.96. What's even more impressive is that he's giving up fewer points per possession on pick-and-rolls than elite defensive anchors like Rudy Gobert, Bam Adebayo, and Victor Wembanyama. To put it into perspective, Şengün has guarded around 475 pick-and-roll possessions this season, the fifth most in the league. With his strong performance in this area, the Houston Rockets should be wanting teams to run more pick-and-roll actions with Şengün involved, as it's one of their most effective defensive strategies for stifling opposing offenses. When it comes to defending isolations, on the other hand, Şengün still has significant room for growth. This season, he's giving up 1.06 points per possession when guarding ISOs, placing him in the 20th percentile among defenders. That's a noticeable increase from last season, where he allowed just 0.94 points per possession. So far, only 6% of his defensive actions have been spent on isolations, which is exactly what the Houston Rockets should want. They should minimize the number of times he's isolated on an island, given his struggles in those situations this season. On the flip side, the Rockets should be leveraging Şengün's strengths by putting him in more pick-and-roll situations where he's been far more effective. Pick-and-rolls account for about 65% of his defensive actions and are where he truly shines. If the Rockets can continue shifting the focus away from isolations and toward more pick-and-roll defense, Şengün's presence could make a massive impact on their overall defense. Right now, the Rockets rank 24th in ISO defense and 5th in pick-and-roll defense. By optimizing Şengün's defensive matchups, both of these rankings could improve dramatically. This is an area Houston should look to refine as they push for the second half of the season and gear up for a playoff run. With the right adjustments, their defense could take a major leap forward. But what has truly set Şengün apart defensively this season is his knack for reading the passing lanes and his relentless pursuit of steals. This defensive skill isn't just a new development, it's a continuation of the defensive progress he made last season. His uncanny ability to anticipate passes and time his moves to intercept them has been really impressive. So far this season, Şengün has already racked up 59 steals, ranking 4th among all centers in the league, and has played a pivotal role in why the Rockets sit 8th in the league for steals per game. What makes Şengün's defense so effective is his anticipation. He seems to know exactly where the ball is going before the pass is even made, disrupting the opposing offense before it can get into rhythm. But his impact doesn't stop there. His ability to snatch passes out of the air creates fast break opportunities that fuel his team's transition game. And ironically, the Rockets have been one of the league's best in this area, ranking 2nd in fast break points per game. Given that the Rockets tend to struggle when it comes to half-court offense, their transition game has been a lifeline, helping keep their offense competitive and being a huge reason as to why they have a top 10 offensive rating this season. And while aggressive passing lane defense may be part of the team's broader strategy, it's Şengün's unique ability to execute it, despite not being the most athletic player on the floor, that has been a true game changer. His basketball IQ and timing make him a key defensive weapon, and his steals have been vital in propelling the Rockets' success on that end of the floor this season. Right now, Sengun and the Houston Rockets have a golden opportunity in front of them, a runway to continue developing into a serious contender for years to come. This season, the Rockets have certainly emerged as potential title contenders, though they still trail behind a few of the league's more established favorites. But the exciting part is that the first half of the season has revealed just how promising the potential of both Sengun and the Houston Rockets can be. If they can build on the strides they've already made while making a few adjustments offensively and defensively, they could transform into a truly dangerous force in the second half of the season. And if they can carry that momentum into the playoffs, there's no telling just how far they could go. The sky's the limit for this young Rockets squad.